So this is my early 50s oc3 Oliver cletrac. It paid $500 for it, sitting in an old man's pole barn. Didn't run. Got it up on the trailer, got it home between me and my buddy in about 30 minutes. We had it running and pushing a little dirt. I have the hood and all that stuff. The was a War loader. This is it's a loader, W-A-R-E. I made them for these cletracs, for these old Olivers here. But at one point, it looked like somebody had given up on the loader on their dozer, so they simply flipped it. I'll show you how they did that. This down here was the boom lift, or the hoist lift, and up here was the hoist ram. And what they did was they just literally pretty much flipped this upside down and got rid of the dump hydraulic and made their own crap here. One day I would like, if I come across maybe a parts Oliver that as an actual dozer, I like to put the actual dozer on my crawler here and get rid of, not junk it, because I don't junk anything, but get rid of this big framework and maybe put the original seat back on. I do have a PTO on it that you can't really get to because it's the seat brackets and all that. But it runs great. Runs great. I had an overheating problem and flushed the system. Did an oil change, flushed the system, and stuff that came out of it from sitting for about 25 years. It looked good, but I found out that I could turn my fan by hand without the belts even spinning here. So after talking to Zimmerman, told me to check that out, and I haven't ran it since, but tightened everything up. Another thing is, though, you can tell this must have been aftermarket because a lot of the ones, the PTOs are right off the crank. I'm sorry, the hydraulic pump is right off the crank. This one is a belt driven. Seems to work fine. I don't know anything about this, so if this goes, I might have to do something different. And I want to move the lines away from my exhaust because it looks like they're getting a little hot. Put new plugs in it. Oil change, fresh fuel. Fuel tank was empty, but it had no rust or nothing even in it. And it runs great. You just bump the key and it fires right up. We had a lot of snow, and I was pushing with it out at camp, and this track locked up. And what happened was I had like 2 miles to drive this thing to get it back to the trailer, and we're talking like 2 feet of snow. And the only thing that was going good for me was the cold snow was keeping the metal somewhat cool. What happened was I lost a roller bolts, came out on the front roller, and it bound up, and so it was clinking and clonking around down there. Another thing is, though, my drive gear inside, all the bearings were shot. That's my fault for not, it's my first crawler, and I should have, I would have torn everything apart, but it ran, so I just wanted to run it and see what fell apart first. Well, shit hit the fan all at once. I got a lot of money in the rollers and the gears and all that stuff, but I wouldn't have done it if it didn't run so good. Anyways, I put all new gears in the bull gear, and I do have a new trunnion I want to put on. These brackets are all worn out, and I just ordered new ones from Zimmerman, and I don't want to put my new trunnion on there until I get the new brackets, so I don't beat up a new trunnion. So anyways, the track needs new pins and bushings, but I'm not running a construction business with it. I'm just a hobby toy. This side was fine, but my gear, my drive gear, it would wobble in there. You could shake it and it would wobble. So I tore all this apart, and there's the new trunnion. Did the same thing. Now this side was completely completely in a lot better shape than the other side. The left side was just, it was all screwed up. But I did the worst side first, so I knew if I couldn't fix the worst side, then, you know, why dump a bunch of money on the good side and then get to the bad side and say, shit, I'm SOL out of this machine. So I tried to fix the worst thing first, and if I succeeded, so then I carried on with the other side. Rollers, all these rollers are in really good shape. So other than the final, the gearboxes, I did put new steering band, or steering bands, brake bands, steering bands in there, and got all those set up. The clutches is great shape. The U-joints are good, just a couple of little U-joints. Up here, the front idle wheel, I put new bearing seals in here. They're not really bearings, they're different. It's a steel shaft, but it has brass. This rolls on. There's no bearings. It was pretty cool. But anyways, Zimmerman. All my parts are from Zimmerman.com, and he's got everything. And if they don't make those parts anymore, well, none of these parts really make. But anyways, he makes them. He fabs them, and they're to the spec, to the T. They're awesome. Put all new hardware. Put some anti-seize on the shaft in here, so because these I had to heat up and beat the crap out of to get everything apart. Like I said, I'm not restoring this thing, but I do want it to be able to run. Maybe in years down the road, I'll want to tear it apart and restore it. Notice on these, on the rails, these must have been a problem, because I see a lot of them have been welded and jerry-rigged, and it works, so I'll go for it. Might have a problem with this, adjusting the track. Might have to heat this up and maybe even pull this tension bolt off and really clean it up real good so it doesn't give me problems. But other than that, this is, I'm working on another truck, but this is the catalog that Zimmerman gave me. Zimmerman Oliver cletrac. I'm on my GoPro. This is the first time I'm ever using this thing, so I can't really see if you guys can see this, but he's out of Philadelphia, and he can give you all those oddball parts. Now, if you're going to complain about prices, then you probably shouldn't be having toys like this, but nonetheless, they're not bad shape. $50 for those brackets. I bought 2 of them. I mean, there's $100, but it saved me my trunnion. My old trunnion. No, this is the one from this side here. This one is not in horrible shape, but it's in bad shape. And why go through the problems if I can get the parts? And it's like $50. So that's what that one looked like, and this is what a new one looks like. This is the new trunnion, nice and shiny, cleaned up. You can tell slight size. I don't have my gauge where I could show it, but this is worn down. What they did back in the day, they just welded, put a lot of welds in here, and then ground them down, just let them go. These old machines, they just beat on. They're kind of a rare breed now, but I like old things. I don't like to buy it, I like to build it. I got a instruction manual that goes in somewhat in depth. It's got all the specs and a lot of the stuff that you just can't find online. It's right there in the book. I got lucky. There's a gentleman that lives not next to me, same city I live in, and he was selling an old Oliver, and I couldn't afford to buy it, but he was an older guy, and I called him up and just told him I am a younger guy, and I don't learn from reading a book. I learn from hands-on, and I would like to go over there and pick his brain. Well, thank God he let me, because he had parts, and in fact he sold me that book for $25. This right here, this whole idler he had, mine was shot when I did this side. I bought this from him. He had already sandblasted and put new I say bearings, but there's not, but you get what I'm saying. This is already done, just good to go. 75 bucks. He was in the middle of doing another Oliver and he changed his mind, and I showed up and he's like, hey, young guy was into it. I'm old, you know. I lucked out. This right here, my rail was just beat the piss. It was bad. I tried to fix it and I just couldn't. He had this one there, and I think I paid like $100 for it. I mean, these are parts you can't find anymore. You're not gonna find these parts. You'd be lucky to find them on eBay. And it's just a barn find, I guess, is what I'm getting at. This rod right here goes all the way through to the front. This holds the whole front of the track up on a spring. Here, this spring I bought from him too, and a bunch of some rollers I bought from him. This rod goes all the way through. If you can see, it goes all the way through and bolts to the other side. And this spring is, this whole track system rides like so. And then right there is really there's only 3 points that hold this rail on. There's the inner and outer bracket off the trunnion on the outer, and then on the inner is the same thing. And then this rod. This rod is tweaked, worn out. Somebody take it down to the machine shop. I do a lot of work myself, but this I want to get done to perfect. Take this down to the machine shop and just say, hey, build me a new one. Probably cost me $100, but you know, do it right or don't do it. That's what I think. Here's this track. You can see how bad my tracks are. You can make a rainbow if I spread these all the way out. They're pretty bad. I'm up here in the Upper Peninsula, Marquette, Michigan, so I gotta do some research and see if who can do that. I don't have the patience to hand press every single, heat and press every single pin and roller, or bushing and rollers, pin and bushing, sorry, and get all these out. Hopefully my links are good. I think they're pretty good. But when I take it to the track place, I'll have them decide. They don't look too bad, but hopefully with the rollers and the track getting set back together where it needs to be, tightened, there's new pins and bushings, hopefully I can get some more years out of that. I don't have a big farm or nothing, so it's not like I'm out plowing with it, or you know, it's just kind of a hobby toy. So I guess I keep rambling on, but if you have any questions or anything, I don't know, I'm kind of new to the whole YouTube thing. 2015, you'd think I wouldn't be, but I watch it a lot. That's why I learned a lot of my stuff with this. Other gentlemen on there, women and guys, and so if you have any questions, or if you can actually, maybe I said something wrong and you can correct me, or have any expertise on maybe what I'm looking at and I don't know yet. But what I do know is that I'm taking my time and I'm doing anything to the book. Funny thing I did mess up was when I did this final drive, I put all new seals and everything in here, right? Well, I looked in the book, and dumb me, I was thinking I had to fill this thing up. Well, up here by the bull gear, I did everything by the book and when to fill it and how to fill it before you put final gear on and all that stuff. So I fill it up, right? I'm like, sweet, I got it all filled up with the gear, hand pumped it in, put everything back together. Track is sitting. The next morning I come out here, and all of this sticky honey is all over my shop floor. And I just couldn't, and that shit is expensive, and I just could not figure out what in the hell. My seals aren't leaking, nothing's leaking. It's coming out of around this bull gear. I thought maybe I had to seal backwards. Well, once you take the seal out of the retaining sleeve, you got to buy a new one. So called Zimmer up, order another one. Put it on there, did the same thing. Just keeps pissing out right by these threads and everything. I could not figure it out. Call Zimmerman up, tell him what's going on. He says, look in your book and see how much you're supposed to put in there. Looked in my book. 3/4 of a quart. 0.75 of 1 US quart goes in this whole final drive. In the gear in here, not the transmission in the front axle, but in here. Well, that only brings it up to probably right about here if I'm lucky. It's just a splash. I didn't know that. Like I said, it's my first dozer. But you know, I mean, all my truck axles and gearboxes and transfer cases, you know, you always fill them up to the line. There's no check mark or nothing that like that on here. He explained that there's a breather here that's supposed to leak out. So if you're just servicing it and you want to top it off, like out in a field or something, you top it off, you put maybe a half a quart or a quart in there, and if it's leaking out of here, it's good. The old saying is, don't worry about the leak, worry about when it stops leaking. Well, I guess that's kind of how they go with these. So 3/4 of a quart is in here, nothing leaked out, not even a sweat of a drop. And but the other side, I'm not even gonna mess with it. I'm just gonna let it go and let it leak down to where it needs to be, and it doesn't build pressure, so a little bit of too much oil won't hurt it. At max, it'll be a full quart. So there's my Oliver dozer. Let me know what you think.